The Kentucky House approves a medical marijuana bill and considers restrictions on vaping. Lawmakers start some steps that could make their own pensions less generous and maybe more risky. Brady Industries says it needs $500 million to keep a project going that promises jobs in northeastern Kentucky. Fort Knox will be the home to a new Army headquarters and about 650 more soldiers. Flood cleanup heading into some for Valentine's Day weekend. Comment is next on KET. Good evening, I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Comment on Kentucky, a look back at the week's news in the Commonwealth. And the guests on our panel of working Kentucky journalists tonight are Mark Vanderhoff, reporter for WLKY in Louisville, Mandy McLaren, education reporter for the Courier-Journal, and Jack Brammer, Frankfort bureau chief for the Lexington Herald-Leader. Also tonight, lawmakers take aim at high insulin prices in a state where many face some tough choices. And former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg makes an early play for support more than 3 months ahead of Kentucky's Democratic presidential primary. But let's get right to a busy week in Frankfort. The medical marijuana debate has been tough, lots of different perspectives. But Mark, as we welcome you for the first time, appreciate you being here. A bill did pass the House this week.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Bill. The bill that passed this week regulates and taxes medical marijuana. So if you're a patient and you want to use medical marijuana, you go to your doctor, you get a recommendation, then you get a card, and that card allows you to go to a dispensary and get medical marijuana. It also taxes it at 12%, and the bill says where that tax money would go. It would go to a trust fund and then gets doled out to Kentucky State Police, an indigent fund, the ABC, which will soon be the ABCC. They'll add cannabis to their title, as well as local governments.
So it's kind of an earmarked tax. It's not. It doesn't go to the general fund.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
All right. So this bill that passes would not let people light up marijuana. They couldn't smoke it. How would they use it?
That's a good question. I had to ask the sponsor of that bill, and he told me that you could make edibles, or you could bake with the raw plant material, and you can also use a vaporizer. And I asked him, well, what's a vaporizer? And he couldn't. He tried to explain it to me. I had to look it up on the computer at work, so hopefully my manager won't be having any conversations with me about that. But basically what it is it's a device that you put the raw plant material into, and it heats up that raw plant material and turns it into a vapor. So the old-fashioned way would have been to, say, smoke it through a pipe. You'd light it with a lighter and then inhale the smoke. Well, we know now that smoke has carcinogens. This vaporizer vaporizes the marijuana, and you inhale that vapor does not have the carcinogens.
Jack, there are lots of perspectives on this, obviously, and so the debate has been very interesting. The Family Foundation raises concerns that Kentucky could create another drug problem. Many others testified marijuana is the only medicine that has been effective for them.
Emotions run high on both sides of this issue. Some of the strongest advocates for this include Mr. Eric Crawford. He's from Orangeburg in Mason County near Maysville, and he has been in a wheelchair since 1994, an automobile accident, and he testified this week, and he has said he uses marijuana to help him cope with his condition, and that he doesn't want to be a criminal any longer. So very passionate speech. And they were very happy and optimistic about what might happen to this bill. And as you said, the Family Foundation has brought some religious concerns to it, just about questions people have asked about, will this affect driving? Will this be allowed to be given to children? The extent of all that. And so there's a lot of emotions running on this issue.
So this is a high water mark for this type of legislation. It has passed one chamber now, the House. What are the prospects in the Senate?
Well, the bill is actually not passed in the House. It could go to the House floor this week, right, Jack?
But more than likely, it will be in the House this coming week. It has over 50 sponsors, I believe.
To the House committee, so it has enough to pass in the House.
It passed the House committee 17-1 this week, and then we see it in the House this coming week. And then if the House passes it, which we expect to do, it goes to the Senate, where Mark and I have different predictions on how it will fare over there. I believe. What do you think it'll do in the Senate?
Well, Senate President Robert Stivers has said there is a path, a narrow path, and I think that's pretty significant that he hasn't entirely shut it down. And just today, the bill's sponsor, Representative Jason Nemes, a Republican from Louisville, had a very lengthy conversation, I'm told, about a 90-minute conversation with Senator Damon Thayer. And I'm told that the results of that conversation were fairly positive. So is it a sure thing? No, but I think that's a lot better prospect than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, you're right. There's nothing a sure thing in the Kentucky
And you're
legislature.
more skeptical, Jack.
I am more skeptical. I'm not saying yes or no in the Senate, whether it'll pass or not. I'm just saying I would be surprised if it passes this year. It's taken a big step if it gets out of the House, and looks like it will. I think the House has had a lot more talks about this than the Senate. I think the Senate probably will need a little more time, and maybe next year.
All right, we'll see.